if Man City miss Rodri for one game, that's a bigger. It could be in terms of where they play, a bigger issue than maybe if he misses for long periods of time. Because replacing him for one game, you're trying to bring in someone to replace him like for like. But because he's going to be out for a long period of time, Pep's now going to have to change maybe the way he sets up that midfield. And with players like Kovacic and Gundogan and maybe Rico Lewis and Bernardo and Mateus Nunes, someone like that who costs £50 million but doesn't even get mentioned, that they've still got the players you think to cope fine without Rodri and win the Premier League.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt. The players that you just listed are capable of winning the league. If you list those midfielders, although Rodri is undoubtedly best,
position.
Yeah, he's best in
Right
class.
now.
Undoubtedly the best in class. Undoubtedly, in my opinion, actually the best player in the world. I think that's how good he is.
Full stop.
Yeah,
Not just in that position.
Yeah, I think he deserves a Ballon d'Or. Undoubtedly, in fact, I think he's
and he
deserved
could win
it
it,
for a
couldn't
long
he?
time. Well, he should.
Premier League of Man City, Euros of Spain.
I think it's very, very uncontroversial to say that Rodri should have already won a Ballon d'Or and should win the next one. That's how good he is. No, maybe not. I don't necessarily think that.
He's
I think
not
it's very
sexy
difficult.
enough position.
I think it's very difficult to play for Man City and win one as well. I think it's very difficult to not play for, say, at least Real Madrid and have it sewn up. But playing for Man City, I think, may make life a little bit harder for him to get that award. But in my opinion, he deserves it. The reason why it's a different way of looking at it, but the reason why, in a way, you're better off to have him out for the entire season is because what you do is you totally reinvent your midfield. You totally reimagine the way that it plays. So you look at the players that you have available. You have Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Ilkay Gundogan, Mateus Nunes, Rico Lewis, and you will work a system that doesn't include Rodri. Whereas if he's out for a game, you know Rodri's coming back. You need somebody to fill in for Rodri, and ultimately, whoever fills in for Rodri is going to be a cheap imitation because nobody can do that.
Yeah.
So it's a hammer blow. It's the worst thing that could have happened to Man City. It's far worse than losing Erling Haaland. It's far worse than losing any other player in the squad.
I agree, because without Haaland, they're still going to create all the chances. It will just be somebody else to put the ball in the back of the net, right?
They won the league. They won the league, didn't they, without a striker? And if you think about Pep Guardiola's true identity, the way that Pep Guardiola truly wants to play and has played over the majority of his managerial career, it involves a false nine. It involves Phil Foden as a false nine.
It's also important to remember, before Erling Haaland turned up to Man City, they got to 100 points without Erling Haaland.
Exactly.
They got to 100 points with playing with 4 or 5 different players in that position. I think you're absolutely, Rory, bang on with that system. Just out of interest, I know we are a few days on now, but it's your first time on talkSPORT 2 since that I'm going to call it a famous game. I think that game's going to go down in Premier League history for the way it unfolded, for the aggro, for everything. But in particular, Arsenal have come in for some criticism for the dark arts and all that sort of stuff. In terms of all the reaction to that, the kind of that sort of side of things, where do you think Arsenal getting a little bit of unfair stick, or is it justified?
I certainly don't think it's unfair. The only reason you could possibly suggest that it's unfair is because Arsenal prided themselves on as a fan base as being better than that. When Chelsea were a team that parked the bus and had Jose Mourinho and was all a little bit underhanded, Arsenal prided themselves on being the club with class. Now they've adopted a lot of those principles, but they have nothing to apologise for. I'm full of admiration for Arteta doing that. It's the correct thing to do. And anybody that seems to think that Arsenal have a responsibility to provide you with entertainment, or anyone that thinks that Manchester City have a God-given right to play against teams that wants to play expansive football, they're completely missing the point. The other thing I find quite annoying about this, playing defensively, sitting back, being negative, putting 10 men behind the ball. Why is that boring? I don't see it as being boring. I find that kind of football, attack versus defence, last-ditch challenges, goal-mouth scrambles, clearances off the line, I find that beautiful in football. I don't think that football needs to be constantly played in the same way, pass. There's loads of beauty in a last-minute clearance off the line.
If all 20 teams play the exact same way, it'd be pretty boring, right? If you saw end-to-end, if you saw 2 teams playing end-to-end football 10 times a weekend, that would be quite dull, wouldn't it?
I loved everything about that game. I loved Haaland launching the ball into Gabriel's head. I loved Haaland saying to that Lewis Skelly, who are you? Yeah, I loved that. And I loved the front of Lewis Skelly going up to Haaland and going, what are you playing at?
I know, good lad.
I loved the front of that. I think the whole thing was perfect. Yeah, and I'm glad that the ref and the PFA or whatever didn't get involved on
they start
any level.
fining people after games
or
and stuff
banning
like that.
people potentially.
No,
like Haaland launching the ball in Gabriel's head is obviously worthy of some sort of retrospective action. But
Given the moment,
sense.
given the way they get, given the need to win the game. Also, we know they're two wonderful teams, two great managers, but there's something special about a game of football. There's just that little bit of needle,
You want the
right?
bitterness. You want the bitterness.
100%
The Man
you do. It adds
City-Liverpool
to it.
rivalry was far too friendly, far too respectful.
Yeah.
What you want is Keegan versus Ferguson,
Yeah.
Mourinho versus Benitez. That's what you want.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And it's
Wenger, Mourinho.
And it's as much the other way. Like Gabriel, if I was an Arsenal fan, have you heard Gabriel's comments today, I think?
No, go on.
Basically went, wait until they come to our house.
We're going to get them.
Wait till they come to our house. That's joyful, man. That's what you want to hear. I don't understand how anyone can have an issue with it. Respectful rivalries, cuddling each other in the tunnel on the way out, exchanging shirts at half time. It's nonsense. Woke, utter nonsense.
It's woke. I love that picture on Twitter. It's woke, utter nonsense. Jeremy, can we please get that clip? That's the new Rory Jennings one, okay? It's woke, utter nonsense. That's our new Rory. We got that, we got The Guardian, and we got, what is it, Merry Christmas, you Tottenham
The
Lemons.
Guardian one is incredibly misleading. I've read one Guardian article in my life.
Big up Jonathan Liu, right?
Jonathan Liu's article was excellent, but it's the only Guardian article I've read in my entire life, and you've managed to make a clip out of it.
No, you don't hide your love for The Guardian, mate. It's
I
all
have no
fine. Are people underplaying or not talking enough about Liverpool in this time to race, or is it just a little bit too early for Arne Slott's team?
I'll tell you my opinions on it, but then I defer to people who have superior knowledge on football to me, such as Paul Scholes and our producer Jeremy. I wasn't ready to talk about.
Is this what it's going to be now? You've done one show of Paul Scholes,
and
every 20 seconds, Scholesy, Scholesy this, Scholesy that.
I didn't think Liverpool could make it, but my pal Scholesy seems to think that Liverpool are in the hunt. Personally speaking, I don't think Liverpool can win the league. I don't think that. What I think Liverpool are an excellent team. Better than everyone in the league apart from the top two. Miles better than
I said
everyone
for a ball was clear, Liverpool are coming third this season.
But clearly, they will finish 10 points behind second and 10 points above fourth.
Yeah.
They are just the
Have you been impressed though with the early stage of Liverpool in terms of what you've seen so far from them?
Only because they didn't sign anybody significant, and almost more impressively, following in the footsteps of Jurgen Klopp, it's not easy. It's really not easy. But the continuity's there. The flair seems to still be there. The output is there. That defeat at Nottingham Forest at home to Nottingham Forest was bad. Like really bad.
A bad performance as well. The result was bad. Bad performance.
Also, Forest don't win away. Do you know what I mean? They won away at Stamford Bridge last year, and everybody was like, "What is going on?" And now they've done it at Anfield, which is kind of going one better, isn't it? So. No, I don't think they can win the league, Liverpool, but I equally don't think they can finish outside the top four spots. Like we just established, I really do believe that they are nowhere near as good as Arsenal. They will finish 10 points behind Arsenal, but they will also finish 10 points above whoever finishes fourth.
But you think there's that big a gap between Arsenal and Liverpool?
I think they are clearly. They aren't really in competition with anyone.
Yeah.
Do you agree with me, or do you see any logic in what's been said?
I start the season, I promise you, I said I thought Liverpool third for the exact same reason. Maybe I know it's very early on in the season, I maybe think they might be closer to Liverpool and City and Arsenal maybe, than what I originally thought at the start of the season. I think it's a team that has got real strength and depth. I think they got 5 attacking players who can play across all positions. Someone like a Gravenberch in midfield is a completely different player. I look at people like Van Dijk, who looks kind of maybe back to his best. Trent is looking like Trent at right back. And I don't know, the big question was, how is this guy going to cope with being the new Liverpool manager, taking over from Jurgen Klopp, the pressure, the everything? I say 6 weeks into the season, he looks like a Liverpool manager. He's talking like a Liverpool manager. Subtle changes in the way Liverpool play, more passes in midfield. So I maybe think that they could be stronger, Rory, than maybe we all thought at the start of the season. Like, they won't come 10, but we could get into February and March, and they'll be in the title picture. Maybe City and Arsenal pull away towards the end of the season, but I think it could be a bit closer. I agree with you. I think I agree with you on that. The only way I can see them actually launching a serious sustained bid for the league will be if the points tally changes to win it. So I think before a ball was kicked, we would have said 90, north of 90. Easy. Yeah.
You know, now Rodri's out. Does that cost Man City 5 points? Does that make the tally? So. Does it cost Man City 5 points? Are Arsenal likely to get above 90? You know, if the tally that you need to win the league becomes 88.
It's not 2020, not the 2010s anymore, is it?
No, but you know if it does though. You know if it becomes a sub 90 points tally to win it.
Yeah.
maybe Liverpool can. But I just believe that it won't be that. And whoever wins the league will win the league with 92 points. And I don't see Liverpool as a side capable of hitting those heady heights.
You mentioned there, it's great. This rivalry's got a little bit of needle. You mentioned there some of the other great. The Mourinho Benitez one was short, but it was sweet, wasn't it? It was brilliant.
Oh no, it was so hostile though.
Yeah,
it was so hostile because Chelsea and Liverpool aren't really rivals, not really.
But from that,
they became the most.
That Champions League semi-final, wasn't it? The ghost goal. That's where it kind of first started, right?
Yeah, maybe. I think. Do you know if you
was that Jose's first season, wasn't it?
Yeah. If you look at the history, it's a great rivalry, and you can actually study the genesis of it and the ending. Sadly, it tailed off, but. I think
it's still there. Do you think now the hatred between the two clubs? Not anymore.
Not really. Not really. Only in as much as they're another Premier League team and they're a big Premier League team and there's a rivalry and there's a memory of what there was. But I remember going there in 2008 and it was like hateful.
Yeah.
Really hateful. Like the day that Arne Riise scored that own goal. I was up there for that. You remember the header? Kalou crossed it in.
Was that
last minute? Old Trafford.
Yes.
At the Kop.
Yes.
In front of the Kop.
Yes.
Mate, it's one of the most violent games I've ever been to outside. It was so bad. It was like ag. Genuine hostility. But I think the genesis of it, if you actually trace it back, was possibly Jesper Grønkjær scoring a goal last day of the season to put Chelsea in the Champions League.
Do you think?
I think that's when it started. That's where it started. That was the very beginning. And then obviously Chelsea appointed a new manager in Mourinho. Liverpool appointed a new manager in Benitez. I think they arrived in the country about 3 months apart. 3 weeks apart.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at what represents Chelsea and the way that Chelsea fans en masse will identify with the world, and if you look at what identifies Liverpool, it was like the perfect rivalry. It was like Mourinho and who he is and brash and bold and sort of money and arrogance versus Benitez, who was calmer, and it was just the perfect rivalry. And in a way, it's a shame that isn't still there.
I agree.
And there isn't enough of it in football, but hopefully this Man City one can become that.
And some of the Champions League games are great. Obviously, the ghost goal at Anfield. Then the year after, or 2 years later, in the semi-final again, when Liverpool won on pens. And there was that great game with the bridge, the 4-4 on aggregate, where Chelsea went through. Aurelio, wasn't it?
Aurelio, that's it.
Great games of football. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the best rivalries that Chelsea have ever had. Because also it's one of those weird ones. You know, Tottenham. Like we've had a major issue with Tottenham from day dot, and we will for the rest of my life and the rest of the club's life. That one was amazing because it was like went into this crescendo where we played each other something like 15 times in 4 years, and then it sort of ended. It was an amazing. Torres was part of it ending.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Torres, that was part of it as well. Went from Grønkjær to Torres, I think.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.